From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a list of Amazon Prime recommended movies for you to watch during this lockdown. I know it's a very tough time for everyone, and I have a lot of unpredictable videos scheduled for you guys, and so I decided I was going to give you guys some recommendations. And these are all movies in this list of recommendations that I've reviewed already. So if there's some movies that I've reviewed already that you haven't watched, these are the ones that are available on Amazon Prime, and if you want to, you can head back over to the channel and see those reviews and see how your opinion and my opinion match up. Okay, so I'm actually doing this by chronological order. So the first one up is She, released in 1935. The synopsis is: Leo Vinci, told by his dying uncle of a lost land visited 500 years ago by his ancestor, heads out with family friend Horace Laurie to try to discover the land and its secret of immortality. I absolutely love this movie. It's an old movie. The pacing's a little bit dicey. If you're really into like a faster paced movie, you can skip this one, but I love the pacing on it myself personally. It's a black and white movie, but I believe maybe the one on Amazon Prime might be also in color. I'm not sure. I believe they may actually have both in color and black and white. I actually like the one done in color because it has more of a fantasy element to it. This is definitely a precursor to Indiana Jones, has the same kind of adventure style to it. And it also, if you watch the movie, you'll also see some areas in which Indiana Jones has kind of borrowed some of the ideas, especially Temple of Doom. So it's quite interesting to watch this movie and see all of the splendor that's in the movie. All right, another one is Things to Come. I had a lot of fun reviewing Things to Come. It's a very controversial movie in a way because, if you're into the political aspects of it, it can be a great conversation starter. This movie is a very interesting movie. It's about war and technology, the advancement of mankind, and also there's some political undertones there. Catwoman of the Moon, released in 1953. Absolutely love this movie. It's a time capsule pretty much. The synopsis is that there are astronauts that travel to the moon where they discover that it's inhabited by attractive young women in black tights. It's definitely a low budget sci-fi movie with a lot of flaws, but I admire the attempt that was made in that film, and it's worth a look. It's definitely worth a look. The next movie that I reviewed was Devil Girl from Mars, released in 1954. The synopsis is that an uptight, leather-clad female alien armed with a ray gun and accompanied by a menacing robot comes to planet Earth to collect Earth's men as breeding stock. And this movie is so hilarious, so much fun. I enjoyed it, but here's the take. The pacing is very slow, so you've got to be willing to kind of be a little bit malleable with the pacing, or give it a break. You've got to give it a little break because it is a small production done in a very small space. They only have a couple of set pieces, and it almost feels like a theater production. Very small, very intimate, but it definitely has its chuckles here and there, and entertainment. It's a great homage to The Day the Earth Stood Still, in my opinion. Now the next one is The Angry Red Planet, released in 1959. The synopsis is that one of two survivors from a Martian expedition is so traumatized that she doesn't remember the circumstances of the trip. Very, very good movie in my opinion. For 1959, it definitely has the scope of imagination that is very unique for that time period. So I love the imagination. If you're more interested in modern movies, it will be kind of difficult to watch a lot of the special effects, so to speak, because they're not as well put together as they are today. There's going to be sort of like, it's going to look like a stage play again. But it's not, you have to admire a lot of the attempt, at least, of these Martian landscapes and beautiful and unique visuals that they bring to the movie. Love that movie. It's really good. I really like it. It's one of my guilty pleasures for sure. Another guilty pleasure is Star Crash. I love this movie, released in 1978. It's an action adventure sci-fi movie with Caroline Munro, Christopher Plummer. Okay, Christopher Plummer is in this, and David Hasselhoff. Wow. It was released in 1978, which was a year after Star Wars. And at that point, there were a lot of movies that were trying to go for that sci-fi element. They got the budget and the green light from studios saying, hey, go on ahead and make as many sci-fi movies as you want. And these guys were like, yeah, let's do it. And they also did take a few things from Star Wars and put it inside this movie. And I don't think that they stole the entire storyline from Star Wars, but they did use a laser sword, which I feel is very Star Wars. But it brings its own kind of fantasy into the element. Lots of stop motion and interesting space fights. A space station in the shape of a hand. Very awesome. Love that movie. And again, you can check out my review for that movie. Gushing about every aspect of the film in my review of that movie. Another treasured 1978 sci-fi movie that was in the vein of Star Wars was Message from Space. Low budget movies. These are both low budget movies. They didn't have nearly enough money to pull off the things that they did. It is basically a Japanese film with a lot of dubbing. So for people who are not ready for dubbing, that's in the movie. There's lots of dubbing. The synopsis for this is that there are these 7 holy seeds that have gone out into the universe and chosen people to fight the evil bad guy in the film. This film definitely took a lot of Star Wars elements, but also influenced a lot of Star Wars elements that you can see in later Star Wars films, such as Empire Strikes Back and mainly Return of the Jedi. You see a lot of influence that this movie had on that. So I thought that was interesting. A lot of cool visuals in the story, lots of cool ideas. If you like Voltron, if you like Japanese anime from the early 70s, this is definitely in the vein of that kind of stuff. It's very, the sci-fi element to it with the fantasy, and they really don't hold back from what they do in this film. And I love that kind of exploration of fantasy with a limited budget. My next one is Galaxina, released in 1980. It is about the crew of the police cruiser Infinity that is being helmed and helped by Galaxina, a robot that actually saves the universe. It's a fun little fantasy. It's really mostly a comedy. It's more of a comedy than a sci-fi. Everything is played for jokes in this one. So it's not meant to be taken seriously. There's a lot of influences of Star Wars and Star Trek in this film, and just having fun with the idea of a space adventure. There isn't a lot of space adventure, but there's some. And it's also a love story, a corny one at that, but it's still a fun little romp in space. And it has the unique factor of having the star of the movie be Dorothy Stratton, who was Playboy's Playmate of the Year for the year 1980. And it is absolutely a fun movie. Definitely not to be taken seriously, but to have a lot of fun with what is basically on screen. It's a lot of cheeky fun too. Now, the next one is Anna to the Infinite Power, released in 1983, which was a TV released movie, and it's about Anna Hart, who is basically a genius, but it turns out that she is the clone of a Nazi Holocaust survivor. And it is very haunting. It is very mysterious. It's very interesting. And this is the kind of movie that I have always wanted a sequel to. So yeah, it's a very intriguing movie. It is like a television version, and of course an 80s version. So there's a lot of production value that's kind of missing, but it's still a good story, and it's quite fascinating to me. The next one is Warriors of the Wasteland, and I reviewed this quite recently, released in 1983. It's about mercenary that is trying to fight back against a group of evil bikers after the nuclear holocaust. It's sort of an Italian Mad Max movie with a lot of cheesy 1980s costumes and hair and makeup, and it's really a lot of fun. And it's also weird too. It's not your average fantasy movie. It's really kind of jarring, a little. There's some offensive things in there, and the only reason why I'm recommending this is if you're okay to deal with a little bit of offensive stuff, and if you're okay to know that because it's from the 80s, it's going to have those things unique to the 80s. Sometimes they're lovable. Like some things are going to be awesome. Like you're going to have that 80s look to it and 80s music. Oh my God, the music in this movie is so 80s. But it's also going to have a few things that you're going to be, it could be upsetting if you're really sensitive. But it's definitely an interesting movie. My next movie is A View to a Kill, released in 1985. I love James Bond movies. Well, I won't get too deep into the synopsis, but it's a lot of fun. We've got Christopher Walken and Grace Jones in it, and it's just a lot of fun with those guys. If you're a stickler for James Bond, this is actually, I would say, one of the few movies that's off his regular type movie. There's a few of them that are like, this is not usually what you would expect from James Bond necessarily, but there's a lot of 80s big hair, glam, glitz, all that stuff. It's again a timepiece, and it's fun to look at for that. Even the music's really fun in that one. The next one is The Golden Child, released in 1986. It's about a private detective specializing in missing children who is tasked with finding a special child to whom dark forces want to eliminate. I love it. It's one of my favorite Eddie Murphy films. I'm one of those people who actually like mostly everything that Eddie Murphy's done. I know people have said that he's done flops, but I haven't seen a movie with him in it that I didn't like, to be honest. And I know it's so weird. I'm not a super fan of Eddie Murphy's at all either, but like I said, I just haven't seen one that I hated or just didn't like watching. The other draw to this film is Charles Dance, who really does a wonderful job as the bad guy in here and really eats up the screen. But, you know, he's not hamming it up for the camera. He is playing the character with complete elegance and grace, and also, you know, the fear factor, the intimidation that you need for a bad guy. So I love that movie. The next one is Planet Hulk, released in 2010. If you're a stickler and a comic book collector and really intense about the Hulk in general, you know everything about the Hulk, this movie will be very rudimentary for you, to be honest. This is for the casual Hulk fan who have, you know, probably saw the TV series and have seen him in the movies. And it's kind of cool to see him in this movie because he is actually marooned on a planet in which he becomes a gladiator in a way, and he becomes a hero to the people on this planet. And it's so much fun to watch the Hulk in this type of film. It was done in 2010 before Thor Ragnarok, where they pretty much kind of use a lot of these elements. This really comes right out of the comic book series that was really popular, and to be honest, it doesn't really measure up to the comic book. The comic book's way better. It's got more detail and it's really more savage. However, this is a cool thing to watch if you're, again, a casual fan of the Hulk. That is my entire list of movies that I wanted to recommend that I actually reviewed on this channel. I got almost 100 reviews on this channel, so if you'd like to browse around the channel and check it out. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so, and that will be supporting the channel. Hit the bell icon to be notified of my next video. This is Retro Nerd Girl signing off. Take care, movie lovers. I'm off to my next review.